Financial disclaimer. The information provided in this stream is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional financial or investment advice. We are not licensed financial advisors, and the content presented here is based on our personal opinions and experiences. Investing in stocks and other financial instruments involves risk, including the potential loss of capital. Any investment decisions you make are solely your own responsibility, and you should conduct your own research and consult with a qualified financial professional before making any investment choices. The content we share on this stream may not be accurate, complete, or up to date. Market conditions and financial regulations can change rapidly, and we cannot guarantee the accuracy or reliability of the information presented. We do not endorse or promote any specific stocks, companies, or investment strategies. Any actions you take based on the content of this stream are at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses or damages that may occur as a result. Always remember that past performance is not indicative of future results, and no investment is guaranteed to be profitable. Make informed decisions and consider your risk tolerance before investing any funds. By accessing and using this stream, you acknowledge and agree that we are not responsible for any investment decisions you make as a result of the content presented. You are encouraged to seek advice from qualified financial professionals for personalized guidance. Please invest responsibly and only with money you can afford to lose.
Hey man, just found the next guaranteed multi-bagger.
Hey man, you found another one? What is it this time?
Come check this out.
Hey, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the Laughing Stock. It's Ranger Dayne here. It's a Tuesday. Just looking over the dashboard right now, and to be honest, I have not that I'm not paying attention to the macro. I really just kind of check in general, I guess, to see if like the Nasdaq's like up and down. I feel like I'm starting to care less about the S&P, and the Nasdaq seems to be the one I'm actually more like paying attention to because it seems to correlate more with stocks in terms of like if that's down, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the stocks I'm looking at, it seems to affect more. And that might change over time. I mean, obviously the Russell is but like I'm not looking at them nearly as much, and I find even like the macro news, like I'm kind of, it matters in like the context of like a few things, like just general sentiment, like maybe like how like bullish I am in terms of like holding something, but in terms of other than that, it's like, I don't know, it's becoming less and less of a thing. Now this dashboard obviously has a lot going on, and I do like to just keep tabs of everything. I think it's important just to kind of look at stuff. But nothing really is standing out as any too big of a moves. Transocean, I wonder if that's hitting a bottom down there where it's at, because it's pretty low now, and I just looked, and I mean, this chart to me doesn't say anything yet. Like, it just says that it's like definitely at the bottom of it looks like some kind of cycle, and this could peter around down here, but it's also just trying to find like legs. It looks like it's below all the moving averages. Everything's kind of at rock bottom right now. For real risk investors, this is I feel like, maybe take a position, see what tomorrow looks like. I don't know. What is it doing in after hours? What the heck I just clicked? It's up 2%, which whatever. I mean, 2% doesn't mean all that much, but it's like at the bottom of Bollinger Band after it's pulled away, after a huge drop. All the moving averages are trailing it. If you just look historically, stuff doesn't stay in that spot for too long. That doesn't mean it can't go down. Like obviously here, it tapped and then it still continued down. But there was some moves. It's just looking to find any kind of move up. Which even if you got in on, I guess you'd argue this would be maybe the day you'd get in here at like 524 and sold some. You get some small gains, but it pulled right back. And like, this is what I'm trying to avoid these stocks in general. Like when I see this chart now, like this is going to have a pretty impressive move volume wise. And see, like, this is nice volume here, but at the same time too, it didn't do anything. Like it actually ended the day down. So like that would be, to me, that would signal that that move's dead, not. I'm starting to see a little bit better. Now, you know, that might at least alert you to the stock, though, and then maybe you could catch this ride up, which if you had caught this on, let's say, this day when it breaks out on this day here, which I would say is reasonable to be able to catch. It's still only a 10% gain, though. Looking for more than that. Which, whatever, you know, the trick that I've learned, and this is like my big thing I've been changing with all my risk type ideas, is that like when you're taking a position like that too, you're going to sell on either this day or this day, or even this day, even though it pulls back. This maybe be a good day to actually sell some off and hopefully capture that kind of at the beginning of the day, where you're going to get a pretty good return for a 4-day stint. I mean, you get 10% on a 4-day stint. And then obviously the goal is just to split it up amongst a few stocks. So in case these don't work out, you know, for every one that doesn't work out, that the rest do. But oh my God, I'm going mind numbing. Like looking at these charts, it's kind of become ridiculous. But I do feel like I've gotten a much better idea at seeing the signals and reading the chart. And you know, it's like it brings me back to like the fundamental side of things, and like you can see it a little bit better. I feel like after like going through these charts and really paying attention to what's causing stock prices to really move. Like for instance, you know, I was talking about biotech, and normally I don't go into biotech, but like this week I played around with like a few different ones. TERN, which now had the breakout on yesterday, and so decided to buy in them on the morning, and I actually sold somewhere. I actually get pretty good. I think I set it out to sell it, like it was like bouncing around here, and I sold out somewhere around there. Now looking back at the chart, like to me it should have signaled a hold to me, but I'm just like, you know, I'm not really day trading. I don't usually buy something in the morning and then just kind of like, you know, it doesn't pop quite like that like it did for me. So I just got out of it because I'm like, let's just see what happens. We'll learn from it that way. I took the profit, and we'll see, you know, would it have been a good idea to hold this one? And like when I look back, it's like everything said it. You know, RSI became oversold on it, which is fine because usually if it's a really strong move, it's going to have oversold RSI. Volume was massive, which is what alerted me to it in the first place. And you know, MACD and everything had turned positive. It broke right out through the 10 and 20 day, and actually a 50-day moving average too. So anytime you see one of those breakouts, and in general, the overall trend of the chart is up. Those are all things like I'm looking for. It's had some big moves. I mean, it's moved from $4.50 to $10 in the past, and that was like in 2 months. So, you know, 100% gain in 2 months, which I'll take that. So when you see a stock like this who recently, you know, came back, consolidated, pulled down, and you have like that 10-day moving average coming down as you got the 20 starting to move up, all this is starting to ride. This is starting to find, you know, a tightening band here. And then in the morning, you just happen to capture the volume. So, but this is the other thing. So to my point here with TERN, though. So like obviously, I'm not going to buy a biotech just because it's gone up some stupid amount in like in a day or whatever in the morning. So, but the thing is, you could quickly scroll to it and just see the news. And then once you realized on the news is telling you, hey, this is has positive data for an obesity treatment drug, which like everyone knows that's kind of like all the rage. So this one would have been a good long-term hold. I should have, or like a swing trade is what I'm saying essentially. But I didn't want to. I just was smart. I did the same thing with Summit. And it's only because yesterday actually I had off from work, so I had a chance to actually kind of capture it, which same thing. Summit did the same kind of thing. It outshined another drug in a key study, which is why it had the pop the other day. And I got in at like 1690 on this one. Same thing, just check the volume in the morning. The one that had the craziest volume and was just kind of going up. You get in on that move, and then you just kind of hold it. This one, I ended up getting out in like right above 20, which, you know, good moves for like little days. They weren't like huge positions or anything. So I'm just, like I said, just testing it. But it definitely works. And then, like I said, if you look at the chart here, you see kind of a similar... So you got this general uptrend. It's had huge pops before. Once again, it's kind of consolidating. You see the 20 starting to pull up. The 10's just above it. And once again, you get that large volume spike, and you got the same thing. And this is, I mean, yeah, it's two similar stocks, but the idea is that it's how they react to these things. It's how they react to this news. And once again, because this was RSI was oversold and MACD was went from pretty negative to very positive, that should be a signal to hold through. Now, if you get in early enough on the day, it doesn't really matter if you're right or wrong necessarily, because stocks can pull back. But like, for instance, now this is a rare exception, because this stock went from $2 to like $3, and then went from 3 all the way up to 10 or 11 essentially in one day. Now that doesn't happen very often, and this kind of move is like so overblown that like, yeah, you're going to see a pullback from that. But to be honest, if you had gotten in on the morning and you bought at $3 and within a day you had a triple, like, if you don't sell on that, like, what are you waiting for? Like, what are you looking for in a stock? You got a 300% move in one day. So that one, I understand the pullback. It doesn't quite follow the rules. You can even see MACD kind of continues. There's a lot of volume in here. And even if you had waited and held for 1 or 2 days, or even this third day when it actually broke down below that Bollinger Band, or even if you just held it until it broke through the 10-day moving average, it's still more than double. So my idea would be that you'd sell. I would definitely sell on that day if I saw that kind of volume, and then maybe sell another chunk after it pulled here, and then the rest of it on that 10-day moving average. And that one's not as easy to play because it's tougher to call it. This here, it doesn't necessarily signal much the day before. You could see the volume as this started to pull up and maybe get in on that. But I don't think there was any news that day or anything. So this one would be tough. This one might just be straight volume and momentum, which that's a really tough one. Now, don't get me wrong, as it breaks through the 200 moving average, then the 100, the 150, and then the 20 and the 10, like those could be signals, I guess, on that day. Like, hey, there's some real movement in the stock. But either way, it doesn't really matter. But and then once again here, like I said, on this breakout here, this is just like almost an immediate buy. And yeah, do what the swing traders do. Set your stop loss at for the low of the day. So like I said, I don't remember quite what I got in on. I think this was the one I got on at 1690. Was that right, or was that the other one? I might be getting confused which one I got in at that price. One of them was better than the other one because it was the first one I got in on. But anyways, if you had gotten in at the start of that day and just held through, you would have done pretty well. And like I said, and you'll quickly see that MACD just reverses on that day. And when you do see that huge reversal, that's a sign that the move's going to continue essentially. One that didn't work out. So this is one I have a position in this one, but it's not in my portfolio here. It's in which, by the way, I didn't even show the portfolio. Right now, I have a position in BILI, which I think has been kind of bouncing around. Let's just do that one real quick. I'll go back to that. So yeah, so this chart, it's very all over the place. It's definitely a tougher chart. And it's tough to say because like I said, like this is the kind of chart, like I'm not going to be buying on the chart. And that's the other thing too, is like recognizing when you should buy on a chart, when you should buy on fundamentals, when you should buy on earnings. Like those are all the things I'm trying to work on, because essentially the more I look through the markets, there's ways to play almost everything. It's just kind of being able to recognize patterns like quicker than the general people, because like in the morning stuff's going to move, and like if you can get in on those morning moves and you can pick the right few stocks, and it doesn't take like much to figure it out, but you have to just know like a few basic signals to see, and then you're really going to capture the start of some of these moves. Now you can preemptively do some of this stuff, but it's tough, unless you have a stock that has like a really clear pattern, like Curie for instance. As this Curie pulls up on this like moving average, like you can just see that breakout occurring. Like, it bounced around here, didn't hold up, so you might have gotten stopped at. You might have bought on this and actually held it right through there, sold a little bit on one of these days, and then held through. But and this one's still holding up, so that's why I'm still holding my Curie position, because it's approaching that moving average. But I have seen it dip. You watch it happen a few times. It does this, it gets to here, it dips, and then it pops one more time. So that's one thing I'll probably sell on these kind of days. Now this one actually it opened below it and then closed, which like I said, I agree with a lot of the swing traders who've been saying that they kind of focus on where the price is at the end of the day, because there's so during the day there's so many moves up and down. And I'm sorry, I know this is supposed to be a fundamental stream, but like I said, I've been going nuts with these charts. So there's just been so much that I've just been looking at this so much. I've already read. I haven't finished the book, but I'm pretty good into it. Just going through all these different ideas and thoughts. And I think throwing the moving averages over on top of the stuff I was already looking at before has really helped me. Like I said, I feel like I'm close because I see these moves, and the biggest change has been my risk. The way to assess for risk I found is to sell and trim your positions as you go, especially after 3 to 5 days, which historically is a good average for most of the biggest moves during a swing trade. And then to use like hard stops, but find limits that follow your price action, so it allows you to get out of a stock comfortably, and then obviously just not taking too large of a position in any one thing. But with Curie, like I said, this one's easy. This one follows on the 10-day moving average. Like there's literally nothing. This is a perfect setup. If you ever see this and you see this starting to ride like this, all the day's lows essentially are just tapping that 10-day moving average. It's a definite buy. It just doesn't fail. It's almost guaranteed. And then you can see back here, like this is a tougher one. You'll get in on this one. And this is the tough part. If you don't get in early enough in the morning, you can buy somewhere in here, let's say, which it does usually jump pretty quick. Just because that's how momentum works. And this one got real high, so a bunch of people are bag holders from way up there. Never buy late in the day. Maybe at the end of the day if it's down and you think the following day looks good or something like that, but I feel like that's a bad idea. Most people are selling at the end of the day, not buying. But who knows? Maybe if it's one of these moves and you're waiting for right here on this day and it's the end of the day and you're like, yep, it's moving up, I think it's going to keep going. Maybe you want to enter, but I'd still just wait till the next day. Just give yourself a little bit of a signal. You see how the next day is going to go. At least in my mind, that's definitely made things a little bit more clearer. But to go back to 80, if I can spell. Or no, we were going to BILI. That was the one I actually wanted to. Sorry, we're all over the place tonight. So here on this one. So right now, I believe this one's at a bit of a loss for me. But I haven't decided to sell yet. I believe I get on this day when it gapped up here. There's a little gap up. I decided to hold through. And today's technically day 4, so tomorrow will probably be a good day to trim if it does pop. Hopefully we can get some kind of return. I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen. I mean, tomorrow's inflation. There's also the debate tonight, at least for the states. So all those things are going to be factored in. Which I don't. Does it really matter? Does the market even care about? I mean, they definitely care about the rates. But overall, like a random stock, it might make it a little harder for it to have like a huge upside day. But in general, this is moving for other reasons. But what interested me about this one is it's kind of the same idea as it looked over here. It had a lot of really weird gappy movements, not a ton of price action as it does it, but it definitely opens and closes quite drastically different, which is why even though there's been a little bit of a pullback here, this doesn't signal a sell to me just yet. If this 10-day moving average really breaks down or something like that, then yeah, I'll get right out at the end of the day. But just holding it for now because I still think there's a move here still. Ideally, I think this would have been the day maybe I got in on that day. I don't think I did. I thought I got in on the 4th, which it's already started its move. So we'll see. And maybe I was thinking because it kind of did follow. It dipped a little bit on the moving average, but in general, and no matter what, it was consolidating, it was pulling from these highs. So I think there's a move here. My long rambling way of saying that I'm keeping an eye on this. I'm thinking this one's about to make its next big move. 2 million volume on 5 million. It had some big volume on these days, which was up and down. And that's the other thing, too. It had this big volume day where it went down, and then the very next day it fought that right back like it was nothing. So it's almost like in my mind, like in terms of consolidation, like those days don't really count. Like that was the market saying like, no, we're staying in this range, even though it got so volatile up and down, like it still ended up just kind of like, you can just cross this out. Like if you take my mouse and you just cover up this day, it looks like the chart just kind of keeps going, Yeah, sorry, I just did that on the wrong page. If you do it on here, I'm doing it on the screen for OBS. But yeah, if you cover up these 2 days, like this line just kind of stays true, like that bottom line there, which is almost the 10-day moving average. Obviously not quite, but MACD is pulling back, so this could be wrong. Could be very, very well be wrong, but it could be, one of these pullbacks here too. This was a much bigger move. And what does this look like on and then the other thing too is like, just zoom out. So okay, we're in a huge downtrend for the past few years, and then this year kind of back into an uptrend. We broke into the 200-day moving averages. We're still right around the 100, or is that the 50? Sorry, I'm not even used to these 100 and 100 or 50 and 100 moving day averages too. We actually are just crossing above those right now, which is interesting. A lot of times when I feel like you see the lines all converge, those are areas of pretty volatile stock movements. Sometimes bad, especially in a downtrend. So this being in an uptrend usually is a good thing. And I've listened into so many traders who are just saying like, you just need to really rip apart the charts. That's like the best thing you can do is in testing it. So, in the opening of this, I said I was working on my screening systems. So I'm working on all kinds of ways to screen for stocks. Earnings is obviously a good one because I think those are the best ways. In terms of like quick, it's not really a screen, but I just do it in the morning, seeing if I have the chance to be on when the market opens, which is ideal because that's when you're going to get your best moves. If not, I can set some limit orders in the morning, and if they take, great. If not, it is what it is. I'm working, so I don't have time to sit there and do other things. But for the ones that do take, that's great, and that's why in the morning too, if I can run a quick screen in the morning, see what's jumping, see what's moving, just check some quick news and get like a list of like 2 or 3 of them, and maybe put some orders in on those ones. That's great. For the rest of them, it's going to be more of the traditional swing trade. And like I said, the ones that are like easy for me to see is like Curie was, because Curie's gotten this just real steady movement upwards. Everything's showing it starting to break out. And this doesn't have my moving averages and stuff, but everything's starting to show it's breaking out on this one. If we go to ALTO, for instance, right now, so like when we're looking at ALTO, so one thing to recognize right now is ALTO's in that downtrend. It's been actually consolidating here. So even though me and Johnny have been really bullish since it's been around that 30 mark, or especially even below 30 cents. Yeah, on a fundamental basis we are, but when I look at this chart now, yeah, so it did break out on this, but it's just the 10 and the 20 day, which is good, but it's not, like I said, it's not indicative of usually like big moves. Now you're starting to see the 50 and the 100-day moving average come down here. And what most traders are going to be interested in was it breaks those. And that's the thing is, as a fundamental investor, and we know the story here, we're kind of waiting on that earnings report coming up, and that earnings report could cause a massive move in the stock. Not saying it will, but if and they have to perform too. That's the other thing too, is I think even a weak performance in this next earnings is not going to do much for the stock. I really think it's important that they kind of nail this one going forward. Not for like the long-term like success of the company, like no one cares about that, but in terms of the stock price appreciating, which is kind of what stockholders are interested in. Is, that's why we're in equities and we're taking the risk on, because we want return and we want it preferably as big and as quick as possible. Or at least I think that's what most people are trying to do. Anyways, though, so like on this, it's just kind of bouncing around here, which, like I said, it's consolidating. If you see a big move on one of these mornings, it could just be a technical breakout, and a technical breakout in ALTO could be big. So it's just one of those stocks like in the morning, making a list of one of these and just kind of checking. Now it's barely moving. The volume hasn't been there too, and the other thing too is like even on a day like that, you can see it got down to this bottom of this Bollinger Band here, and it's still doing the same thing, but it hasn't been able to actually take off yet. So I would wait for a bigger move in ALTO, and then I'll take a position almost immediately. It's just kind of on my watch list because I no matter what, I think it's the right thing. This is just me trying to time that move now as best as possible. And then you know, for instance, so for like the strategy that I've been saying essentially. So starts to break out on MACD here. RSI becomes positive on these days. You start to see on this day it actually breaks above the 10-day moving average. So this to me is like the signal that like you should be buying. Like this is, or not like you should be buying, but like this is like, hey, watch this thing. And then on the next day you do get a decent little breakout in the morning, and this is where I take my position in the morning. And then you're gonna hold this one. Now you're gonna hold it for a few days no matter what. It breaks through 20-day moving average, actually holds above the 20-day moving average even on its bottoms, and you can see how closely the 10-day moving average, the actual intraday sell-offs are, which starts to show you that the stock's in that general uptrend. Now, even if you sold half your position at this this is 5 days, if this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one of these 2 days, yeah, you're not going to get a huge amount on that, but like let's say you sell 30% on that day because it looks like everything's moving up. You could hold it. Obviously, you should sell a big chunk on this day. And I get it. You're like, well, you want to capture a whole move in a swing trade, correct? Well, yes, you do, but you also have to kind of hedge your odds. So if you had sold 30% on this day, 30% on this day, and then you hold your other 30 to sell on this 10-day moving average breakdown, or when maybe MACD actually finally crosses over, it's mixed on which one you should use versus the other, just from what I've been looking at. But anyways, when it starts to break down here, maybe sell, if you're wondering, sell 15% on that day and the rest on that day, because it actually finally breaks down and the whole trend breaks down. All of that still is going to net you a decent gain. And if this was like a 5 or 6 like top position for your return, you're still going to be pretty happy with that. I mean, no matter what, like I said, let's say we got it in at $1.40. We'll say we sold a little bit there, a little bit at $1.60, and then I'll say the rest at $1.50. It's still going to net you just over a 10% gain, and that's in like 3 weeks, maybe a little longer than that. Which I know it's not great, but you got to think too, like that's the other thing. You're selling off some of your positions, so that 30% that you sold initially on this day, it didn't accrue for much, but now it's back open. What's up, value? Pretty flat for me this week. I've actually gotten kind of lucky in just some of the moves and stuff that I've been able to get into. They were smaller positions, but overall the portfolio this week, where is it? I'm up like a 1.5% this week. Still trying to recover from this whole month overall because like I said, I had some mistakes I've made, but what's been making me happy is just looking recently at my results and some of these things that I've gotten into. They've had huge up moves, and they've all been kind of working out for me. So I think BILI and Resolute are the two that, of course, which are at the top that haven't worked out, but they're also brand new positions, and I'm kind of seeing how they're holding based on what the chart versus like what I think. Because it's kind of tough in the short term with judging much without having the chart, because the charts kind of gives you something to go off of. Otherwise, like, you know, you should just hold it if you're not really sure, which, you know, might be the right move in the long run here. But I've just been kind of going over ALTO real quick just on how I look at it. So anyways, you know, and like I said, if you're selling off bits and pieces on these 2 days here, the good thing is once you get to like this point, like you've had that money free for a while. So like you've made some money on it, you free that money up and you're able to compound that somewhere else. And as this move breaks down, you know, it just kind of is what it is. But like if we go to like ARC or something, so like sorry, it's way back here. So it's like almost, let me just expand this. I don't know why I'm acting like I can't just open it up. All right, so on this day, so once again, somewhere in here, you start to watch that this is kind of becoming positive. It's following that trend line very well. And then you're watching it kind of bounce up and down at the top and the bottom of these Bollinger Bands. And you're starting to watch the actual volume peak out on this day. You watch that volume uptick. And then this day has that massive breakout. So this is the one that it's above the 10-day moving average. It ends at it, but it doesn't really break much below it. It doesn't go below the 20. And that's, like I said, those are like the signs I've noticed that, like, if you're watching on these days, right when it, you know, Now I know this stuff looks like, it's in hindsight, like if you didn't have half your screen here, it's tough. But on this day where all of a sudden you get this gap up in the morning, that is, I'm telling you, that's the sign that you look for, and that's what starts to move. And it doesn't matter. I mean, obviously, the earlier you get on this day, the better it is. But I mean, just look at the run it has for a while. And like I said, same strategy, same idea, except this is one that it's like working really well on. You get in, let's say at like $4. We'll just round up and say 4. Sell after like 5 days at like $6. So there's a 50% gain on, and I'd probably sell like 50% of the position on that one just because it's a decent gain. And then you just ride this once again until it breaks down below the 10-day moving average and on RSI here, which is somewhere around 673. So then you end up making like 50% on half of it and like 60% on the other half. And like I said, if it's a top few positions for you, these return really well. And this is the thing, is on days it doesn't work out, it's okay. So for instance, let's say it's tough because I feel like after following this so much, like it's really tough to find one. I got to find the one that's all over on BILI, because I know BILI was all over. Like this one. Okay, so like let's say you started to see this breakout here, because there is quite a bit of consolidation with these. Now, like I said, you're looking for the breakout day. So this would be your breakout day. So let's say you get in on this day, and we'll say you bought at 12:20. On this next day, number one, it doesn't really hold its highs very well. So in my mind, these days it doesn't hold its highs. That's a good reason to get out. You could possibly just sell some for a loss on that day, maybe hold the position. Well, let's say you wait one more day and it gets into here. You're still positive on MACD, so it might convince you to hold. And then on this day here too, it breaks below that 10, also the 20-day moving average, and this becomes negative. That right there is your stop loss. That day, at the end of the day, you just get out. Now, you bought at 12 something, you sold it like 10.20, so you did take like a 10% loss on that position, but it's just one of many positions. And the goal, and then let's say you follow the stock, all right? So now we get back to this point. You're watching it once again break up. And this is the thing, you're going to get tricked on some of these because it looks like it's about to break out and just quite hasn't yet. Now you could have held, and if you had held through here and just believed in some of these lower, I guess some of these bigger moving averages, you could have. You could catch up on some of this ride, and then obviously this will break out and now actually make all your money right back. So for instance, if you had gotten screwed out of that one, you just kind of keep the stock in the background. Just keep watching it because it's going to have these days. Now, so you see this day, it's huge movement up. Then this day starts, and it started below and actually worked its way back up above the moving average. Like I said, these are days where, okay, now it's becoming interesting, and then huge breakout on this day, you buy the same thing, and then this one you're going to make big profit on. And same thing, you would end up selling the end of your position, and even if you held it through this big day and this big breakdown on this day, you still got in at 13, and you had bought somewhere around 12, so you made at least your 10% back. And the thing is really, if you're paying attention to the stocks that have the most momentum to them, they tend to go up in these bigger moves all throughout the year. Like value, since you're here, man, let's look at NUTX real quick, because NUTX is a great example of it. So NUTX, this would be like one of those ones where, Value was talking about how he was buying it, and I can't remember Value, if you're still in here, Value, where did you first take your initial purchase around for NUTX? And this is the beauty of being a value and especially a deep value investor is, Value gets his conviction not just from the chart, but he believes in the actual turnaround on the story. And, the chart can show you it's in the downtrend, but for a lot of these smaller stocks that are in downtrends, you really need to more know the story. Just looking at some of the stuff is going to help you. The one thing that can trigger it as a technical trader is volume changes and big price action. But this is a small stock, and I guarantee you, on a lot of people's screeners, it wouldn't pop up. But anyways, you can see this entire downtrend. There was basically almost nowhere this told you to buy. This is still below the 10-day moving average, so even though the MACD crosses over, that's a good reason to be pretty hesitant to buy there. Now, it does consolidate really well, but because this is in such a big downtrend, that's usually a good sign to not get in. Now it is consolidating on this one, so on this day it wouldn't have been quite this steep of a curve at the time. It wouldn't have looked like that, but still, it's reason for worry. There's no volume on any of this. This day started up high and then ended at the end of the day, so that would have been a quick stop out for yourself if you were looking at that. Then it takes that huge downtrend. Now you see the 10-day moving average is floating way below that. You don't even want to basically touch it until this starts to consolidate between the 10 and the 20. That's the next time a move can happen. And look at any chart and tell me that that's not true. Like it's just always, it's just mathematics. It's simple mathematics until the 10-day approaches. Now you might have days where that 10 just all of a sudden skyrockets above because there's some stupid kind of like volume on a stock, but you can't catch those ones. So don't worry about that. Don't focus on those ones. Like if you can't catch it, it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. And sorry guys, I'm getting something warning that my bit rate is down right now. I don't know why it's doing this. I don't have anything basically open essentially. I'll close that. So I don't know if that was doing anything. Anyways though, so once again, this is maybe the next time you can see it kind of starts to, but there's never really a breakout in here. Yeah, this one's up, and if you had bought on one of these days, I mean, think about it. You bought on one of these days. Let's say you bought right there at $7. And you held it for a few days, you know, you actually still got a little bit of a gain here. And then once again, it dropped back down. So this one would have been a wash. And once again, you see this day, this should be telling you to kind of get out here. This never broke out, never really did anything, starts to break below. Bollinger Bands are moving down. You know, you're starting to watch the MACD. It barely ever lifted up and starting to come back down. So this is, and like I said, even if you sold out on this day, maybe this next day, still not for much of a loss. Like it would be like a 2 or 3%, maybe 5 if you didn't sell any on here, but you should have trimmed. So I would say this would maybe be a 5% loss on the total position. And anyways, you wait till it's going through all this, bobbing around, it's not doing anything. Has a little bit of a move here, but once again, kind of flat, no volume to these. There's still no volume. It's starting to pick up a little bit. And then we start to get down here. Now, you're not going to catch these days. There's no way. You know, this is for value investors who are averaging down on this. That's where value investors are going to be averaging down. There might be some nuts who are just taking this because it's like a 52-week low. Maybe they're buying there just to see if they can catch a flip. Anyways, and then it starts to pop up. On this day here, this is probably the breakout. It would be most easiest for most people to get in on this one. And this is why if you're just going off the like a typical momentum burst strategy, you would miss this entire move here. You'd be waiting. This entire move would have missed. But this is a 400% move. So you know, in my mind, it's crazy. Well, I guess it's 200%, right? I'm just multiplying by 20, or 5 to 20, but. So it would be a 200% move, but it's a 200% move in the course of, like I said, if you got it on like this 530, now obviously you would sell on one of these days in here because you hold, like I said, on this day, it actually does break down. So you might actually have gotten out here and only captured from somewhere in this day to somewhere there. And like I said, got out on some of it there. But once again, it does the same thing. It breaks right back out on this day. Once again, on this breakout, this should be throwing it in there. Value says my first purchase was in April after the reverse split on the big drop around 7 and added to it when it was lower. Yeah, so like I said, Value, my goal here is to help me be able to use these charts to kind of find... Oh, yeah, you know, it's all good, man. I wasn't sure. Like, I'm never sure how close someone's paying attention to me rambling here anyways. But anyways, so once again, this just becomes such a clear, obvious signal here on this breakout on this day. Everything's telling you to buy. And then it's actually the few days after you get this huge breakout. Once again, you could have captured a massive amount of this move with extremely low risk. And that's the goal. That's the one thing that I've been trying to switch over by using these charts is because the risk is just not there. If you set your stop loss on this day at like basically opening lows for the day, this one broke out, so you're going to stay in there. You're going to sell after 3 to 5 days. You write it up, and the next time it tells you to get out is somewhere around here. And as you can see since then, yeah, the stock price did go up a little more. It's been a little higher on some of these days, which, you know, you could make all kinds of little rules for yourself. Sell like so much amount at the top of Bollinger Bands or something, whatever you want to make up. But anyways, my point being is you would have captured a huge chunk of this move. And now we're in the breakout strategy period. And you'd see we crossed the 200-day moving average on a stock that says, stream seems fine for me too, by the way. Okay, good. You know, we crossed this 200-day moving average. There's so many stocks I can pull up that once you cross that 200-day moving average, it's like all bets are off. Like, you know, I've built a bunch of momentum screeners because it's good to see stuff on a momentum type basis. And actually, you know, let me, I'm just going to go to another version of a chart I've made here. I didn't even click it. Hold on. Yeah, the bullish divergence on the RSI and MACD. Yeah, no, that's value. That's what I'm saying is all those things combined, especially as the 10-day and the 20-day moving average. The 10-day and the 20, well, any moving average for that matter, I've come to appreciate for the fact that it's kind of simple math. It's going to start to follow the trend. And if you use them as trend markers and ways to see the trend break, they're very simple at doing that. It's kind of idiot proof. Anybody can do it. It's more just knowing what you're looking for and making sure that those trends hold up. But once again, so these are 200-day moving average breaks is what I'm trying to show. Now you can see all this consolidation in here on this chart. This is where it starts to break out, and you can see this massive move that it held. And there's multiple opportunities in here, especially if like you're looking at like what Value and me are saying on these MACD breakouts. Plenty of opportunities for you to swing trade these for pretty large gains in pretty short amount of times. Now, once again, you can see that it all breaks down on here. The 10-day moving average struggles to break out above the 20 there. Mid-July low is lower than the April 15th low, but on the MACD and RSI, so it's making higher lows for the same date. Are you talking about NUTX value? Or are you talking on this one? Mid-July low is lower than the April 15th low. I'm assuming you're talking about this chart, but anyways, but that's why it's making the combination of the moving averages important. Because if you're looking at this breakdown here, oh, okay, for NUTX. Let me just go to that real quick, just so I can follow along with what you're saying. All right, mid-July low. So you're saying in here is lower than the April 15th low, but on the MACD and RSI is making higher lows for the same date. Yeah, well, this is just, in general, the volume of how big of a down move this is. But like I said, after you have a down move like this, too, you'll start to see this consolidate. And the further this 10-day moving average pulls away from the 20-day moving average is the level at which there's going to be this. As you see this start to pull away, that's the most bearish sign you can find. Because as that pulls away from there, it's basically telling you that that drop's going to get steeper. Now, I'm not saying it can't reverse trend, but like I said, the further apart it gets, like the uglier it's getting, which, you know, like I said, it's basic math. But the chart allows you to see that a little bit easier. Once again, but you see the stock here starts to break out on MACD as well as on the 10 and 20-day moving averages. This is one that, you know, when I'm looking at the chart, if I was to look at it on this day, I'm like, okay, if, you know, I'm looking for a move tomorrow here because this looks good. This looks like it's starting to turn around a little bit. 3 days moving up from a bottom. And we already kind of, you know, Value had alerted me that, hey, this is something that's, you know, possibly at a bottom. So, like, this is how it pops up on my screener for fundamental type things. But like I said, for the 200-day moving averages, when you cross over those, it's super bullish. You can just see that the uptrends in a lot of these stocks with momentum. So once again, crosses below, you watch this, you know, kind of reversion from there to there, and then once again, right back up. And it literally hasn't broken this, and it's even hovered. I guess you could start to move on to this 50-day moving average is kind of your bottom. You see it follows it. It actually nicks the 100-day moving average, so you can see that's when people put a buy-in on this order. Someone put a buy-in at this 100-day, hoping that it would hit it, and probably nailed it perfectly. and I know these charts are like super zoomed in, so it's kind of tough, but the overall goal of showing you them isn't that it matters. But once again, like here, across the 200-day moving average. Now look at what the stock's done this entire time. I mean, this moving average was at like 20 bucks. And I know there's a lot of moves in here, but that's the whole point, is like that's signaling that like we're in a really big uptrend. So a lot of times I find that if you're looking to swing trade stocks, anytime it's above like a 200-day moving average, and I know there's been books and stuff that the people have seen the same thing, but I see what they're saying essentially is more what I'm agreeing with. And like it's just one more signal in my head. Like when I'm looking at a chart, like real quick, I'm like, okay, it's above the 200-day moving average. Like that probably means it's generally in an uptrend, has some momentum to it, that kind of thing. And like as I'm scrolling through these are just numerous examples. Now don't get me wrong, it does come up and break down sometimes, but on truly decent momentum stocks, it should continue to push right through. I mean, you can see that orange line here too if you're having a hard time seeing is our 200-day moving average. But that's the one that if it's going above that, your stock's probably in a general uptrend, and then that means that this strategy of playing these, it works really well. Because let's zoom in on EverQuote, for instance. Let's do 8 months. So anyways, this is the next time it breaks above. Now it broke out on the 10-day here. It didn't really break out quite on MACD until this day. But even if you got in on here, you'd sell a little bit probably on day 3, because I would imagine if you got in on this day, this is like the 3rd and 4th day, you might take a little bit just because it didn't move much there. You're holding it. There's no reason to get out. And then the rest of the position you're going to hold essentially all the way up until somewhere in here. And then it breaks down somewhere up there. And once again, breaks out on one of these 2 days. It should be interesting to you. Now, this one doesn't work out great, but it does come back down. But then it always stays above the 10-day moving average. So actually, you wouldn't have sold again until up here. Now, that took a little bit of time, but you did get, my point being is that it's not a loss. And if you can just continue to hedge these as small gains over time, and it's the course of, that one took 2 or 3 weeks. And you have to think too, there's a bunch of times that there's going to be big movers. You're going to be focused on the bigger movers. So when stuff like this doesn't work out, it's not that you're going to miss out on some of the moves. But some of these, like these ones too, like this one starts to follow that Bollinger line. This is, like I said, that more traditional breakout. Actually, this one does it really well too. And like I said, you start to see that where the bottoms are hitting these things, and you start to see it's approaching, this one's already through a 10 and 20-day moving average. So this one should have already been on your radar. And then you're watching it, and it's just following that, and then MACD goes positive. It's the start of an uptrend. It's just, and like I said, I've gone through. There's just so many examples of it. It's like, it's kind of mind-numbing at a time. And then, like I said, the big thing is just in the morning having your lists ready, essentially, so that you're going to get in on these things. But also, really importantly, is you have to have a reason for these things. When things are in the general uptrend, it could even be that like last quarter's earnings report was finally really good, or it's been having like a few decent earnings reports or something like that. Those all can be things. It could be, like I said, with biotechs, it could be that the trials are doing well, or it could be, like a huge revenue surprise. That's another huge one. Like that's what NUTX had, essentially, was a huge revenue surprise. So that's really, they call it an episodic pivot. So that's one of the things that you can look for. But those are the ones I'm most focused on right now. Like I said, the long-term trend ones where you can start to watch it climb up these Bollinger Bands, those ones are a little easier because usually they're not like these, like when you have like a really crazy move in one day, it's almost kind of like ridiculous because like you got to really get in early, because sometimes if those break down, that's where you'll get kind of stopped out and you can take the loss. And you can control your risk as much as you want, but it just limits your ability to stay in some of these things, because the trick is like on this day, a little bit of a breakout. Even this day, it kind of breaks out and it drops a little bit and then comes right back up for the rest of the day. And without going into an intraday chart, who knows at what time that happened. And that's why I try and look at things at the end of the day. Don't really worry about the intraday moves. It doesn't really matter unless you're trying to trade that, which I'm not. But once again, just easy signals. Like, this doesn't have to be tough. Like this one right here. This should be screaming to you to watch this. You know, especially after all the news and everything I knew, and looking in hindsight now, like I would have captured this almost this entire move. I would have definitely had this on my radar around like $8 and probably like 30-40 cents, because I know this isn't a heavily traded stock. Even with all this going on, the volume's still very low on this, so I would have easily gotten in somewhere on this day, and then I would have went from $8 to $21 in the matter of a few days. And this is as someone who only vaguely knew the story, and I'm just trying to get this in a short amount of time without putting much risk on hand. So that's essentially, that's the goal. The goal is to find that over and over. You know, another good breeding ground I found for is just on Seeking. I follow a bunch of analysts, and like, on my day I can go through my analysts and just kind of see, is anyone talking about anything, see if anything's moving. Especially if it's anybody who I kind of trust a little bit more. And really, I found in terms of ratios, like when I'm going back to the dashboard here, like if I'm screening for stuff now, like the ones that really stand out to me, and like good ones to go off are really price to sales. I know it's kind of ridiculous that price to sales matter so much, but it really doesn't hurt to have decent price to sales. Now a bunch of these don't have it, which is fine. It doesn't really matter, which is crazy. But people are still investing in these things because of a lot of different reasons. You'll notice I did adjust it, so my market caps are pretty strict. Now this one says 29, and I thought I put 30 in, so maybe this is rounded. So this one just made my screener and actually would have missed this whole move. Now this is an example of like this QH. Now granted, this might go up again tomorrow, but it's up 300% in a day, and I know after hours it was up some crazy amount anyways. See if it's still up. Yeah, up another 120%. So I mean, on these ones you can take a small position. That's the other thing too, is like in the morning too. Like let's say you took like a 1% position on this, and you captured any of this move. Like your 1%, is up 4 or 5%. That's like a week worth of gains in just one stock, like that you put 1% on. The goal is in my mind to do 3 to 5% a week. You do the math on that, 3 to 5% a week, it just kills it, just merges it. So this would be one stock that, like, you wake up in the morning and this is kind of a penny stock. It's not something that I think you should put much influence on. But yeah, you put 1%. Now who knows? It in the morning, it opened 9:30 at 45 cents on that day. Is that the? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was yesterday. And that was the start of the move. So you would have got it at 45 cents. So it would have been like a 200%. And then this is also going to be another 100% gain from there. So on that 1%, you could do it with that. And that's why I said, like, just kind of in context, like you've seen it do it before. It's had one of these massive days, but it's also come right back down the next day. So who knows? Tomorrow morning you could wake up and it's back down to here, which is, like I said, that's why, like, I would do like maybe 1% on this, and I'd actually probably day trade this one, because this one at the end of the day, I'm probably going to take that or sell at least half of it or something, because who cares if the other half comes back down? It's still, like I said, it's still a big gain for a really small, stupid stock that essentially doesn't really matter to the overall portfolio. Like you're not, like I said, you're not going to lose much. Even if the stock was up 150% when you bought it, and it goes up 100% and then comes right back down, and it's down 50%, like, okay, you're down a third of a percent on a move like that. Who cares? That in my mind is how you, like, hedge that risk. But yeah, so I've been keeping the market caps at least 30 million or above, and I've been trying to keep the price above $1. You'll see there's a few in here that are below $1, but in general, that's kind of becoming more and more of a cutoff for me, and because there's just not much reason to take that risk on. And I might find that maybe I will continue to do what I was saying, is I'll put like 1% on those ones. So like that'll be kind of like a hard rule of mine, that like if you're going in and the stock's like under $1, like the most like you're able to allocate towards it is like 1%. Maybe if it's a special play, maybe a little bit more than that, but keeping it small no matter what. You know, where some of these other positions, I easily like it up to 10% of the portfolio or something like that. Not with something like that. Like it's just not going to happen. And if you get a big move, great. If not, don't worry about it. On stuff that's down, BFH is down, which I was gonna say this wasn't a big uptrend. So on down days, you can kind of see, is it actually like, is it just pulling back, you know, or has it totally destroyed the trend? On my mind, this totally destroyed the trend. I mean, this is destroyed. Probably on this day is probably like a warning, and I'd probably start to sell some, and then this day here is at the end of this day, that's when I'm out. But that's why I'm actually wanted to look at BFH, because it's been on a momentum screen for me too. So this is another one that's pulled up and then had numerous examples of basically everything I just said. MACD turns positive on this day, has a huge up day. So if this day didn't convince you, any one of these days, which even if you get in on here, the next day, now if this day was the opposite, if it ended down here, you would sell out and just take the loss. But this day ended up here. Then you'd sell, like I said, a few days, hold the rest until the 10-day moving average breaks, which is on technically this day here, which on almost everything it's on that day. And then once again, next time we get interested, it's on this breakout. Now, once again, kind of bounces around, but in the long run, that last bit that you hold, even if, like I said, you get out at the end of this day, still a decent gain in a relatively short amount of time. I mean, we're talking about a month, maybe just over a month, but you, like I said, you'd also sell 30 to 60% of your position before you get to that day too. So it's, like I said, it's just all like rules to put in place. If you follow these rules, like I said, I've been doing the math, it works in your favor. It kind of helps because there's some of the different traders out there that I've looked at, some of them argue that you can die from the death of 1,000 cuts. And the reason why that's interesting is because they're waiting for like very specific signals, and they really hedge their risk. And I find you can almost trade this style more often, which allows you to kind of, keep your eye on things and maybe go into like more options. Now, maybe as you get bigger, you don't want to take that risk anyways, and you do. But as these accounts are still smaller, it's worth just kind of just playing with some of these different styles and seeing it. Maybe in the long run, I will wait for bigger signals to actually signal it. But sometimes it's not just a signal, because like here, this one starts to signal buy somewhere in here. Technically, this day, I guess you could argue is a buy because of this gap up above the 20-day moving average, and then hold it through here. But there's a lot of times you'll miss these kind of things if you're following the really strict rules too. And when I say strict, I mean only in terms of like your entrances, not in terms of your sell points. The sell points need to become very strict. They should always be strict. The stop loss, whether you do it at the end of the day or the start, or like on that opening day, that's one thing I've been going back and forth on, because I've seen so many times it work out in your favor where you hold it and don't let the first day down bother you. And it also, like, because in my mind too, the goal is to always have success, and I think that's why I liked to take such large positions before, because my goal was to not make mistakes, and I've come to realize that that's a mistake. Assume you'll make mistakes. It helps a lot because it doesn't kind of hurt you on those. In terms of insiders, Butterfly has been just doing absolutely amazing. This was one I looked at, and I did it. There's so many opportunities on this one to get in. Really poorly done on my part. This is one that I think on this day it broke out, and I was a little nervous because I had missed these first few days here. But this is such an uptrend right here, and this looks so good, especially as the volume here just kind of goes nuts, and it's just gone up every day since. This would be an excellent one to swing trade, obviously. And I mean, look at everything we just gone over. Got a ridiculous amount of consolidation. Every moving average is in this plane. And as it starts to break out, you're getting RSI and MACD. MACD technically came positive on here. So if you decided to get on that as it broke this 10-day moving average on one of these days, you're in at $1, which means in the course of like 2 weeks, or not even, like a week and a half. Maybe it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. 50% a week. So 50% in your first move, then you sell. I mean, you wouldn't even have sold yet. You'd be holding this, and who knows? Maybe this move goes higher. It looks like it's kind of flattening, but I mean, you can see this has got a lot left in it in terms of the long run. Now it might move sideways here, but this was one too. It had insider buying, and it's you can't make this mistake. You have to see this chart. You have to be checking this chart. So that's my big thing, is making sure I'm screening enough to really get a list of ones to look at. And on these days where these start to break out on any of these days, anything in here, maybe this day, since it was down at the smidge, but any of these days should have been clues to start getting interested in this one and maybe take a position for an actual swing. Because like I said, on here, nowhere in this region is it telling you to buy. And this is literally the first time it's telling you to buy. So you missed this entire downtrend. If anything, you had gotten in, if you were watching this one before, somewhere on here, sold a bunch in this section here, sold the rest on this day here, and then you're just riding it for the next 2 months, not doing anything with it, just keeping an eye on it. Overall, wasn't a downtrend, so maybe a little tough to call, but even here too, you start to see that consolidation on the 200-day moving average, which would maybe give you some more conviction to start looking on these days. Like I said, this is a stock that has insider buying. And 1.6 million. It's not like it's a small amount of insider buying. When actually even was that from? Do I have... Larry Robbins purchased at $1, 1.6 million. Come on, $1. Exactly. This guy fucking killed it. Where's that stupid thing? This guy purchased on this day at $1. It's like looking back, it's like you want to oh my god, if I would have seen this chart with what I know now, like 2 weeks ago, it would have been an immediate buy. Especially like this next day, like I said, you'll see that there's days down, but if you don't follow, don't worry about intraday moves. Don't watch it. It doesn't matter. Check it at the end of the day before the market closes, and you'll know if this had totally collapsed or if this was, worthwhile. And even if it's down, like I said, I would set my I would set my buy or my stop loss probably at like the moving average down here, because this has so much going for it. Maybe at the bottom of this day, but like I said, it took off, and then this day it ended up ending above for the day. So it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have stopped you out. And then you can just see what the stock's done since. And if you were trimming it as it went, it's a great play. IMMR, see, in hindsight, I had played this one, and this was right before I'd pretty much seen everything I saw. I decided to get in on here. Why was this a huge mistake? This is a huge mistake because you see this massive separation between the 20 and 10-day moving averages. Means we're strictly in a downtrend right now. Don't get in. It did pop up above, so this was me trying to catch this, or maybe it was one of these days. I don't remember. Could have been on this, but once again, 12 million shares. Float was 112, so 10% of outstanding. Be interested to hear your take on the chart for that one. I'm trying to dive a bit deeper on it. Okay, yeah, definitely check it out, value. So once again, this one, on this day looked good. And even if you had bought and then sold on the same day, yeah, it sucks because I remember it was this day with IMMR because it looked like it was going to be up a bit. But also the same thing as earnings came out on this day, which is another thing to pay attention to. I didn't really mention earnings and how it affects the chart. Earnings days make huge exceptions to these rules. So, on an earnings day, now the problem with this is they had really great earnings that day, had a huge revenue surprise and everything like that. But it's following this massive uptrend. It's this move from, you know, and this is actually, you can't even see it because there's a move before here. You know, this is around like the $6 range, and you know, it's all the way up here. Now it has finally this pullback, and you're thinking that maybe earnings can pull out here, but at the same time too, it's already had too much of a big move. Like it's already in a big pullback, so it's like the market had already kind of known that news was coming, and that was because IMMR had bought their stake in BNED, so everyone realized that their cash position had increased. So that was already known by the stock market. So that's why, you know, that's why there's proponents of the efficient market theory, which, you know, I see what they're saying in some of these things. I guess I won't knock them on that. But so this is, you know, it's reason to see why that one failed. And like I said, this would have been another good one that, like, at the start of the opening day on there, you would have watched this and you would have watched that the price literally tanked like right off the bat, and that would have been a signal not to get in just yet. You like just to wait, watch it, because it should become almost bullish right away. Like, you know, within like the first half hour, it should have already made a massive move upwards. If it hasn't made that move up there, it's not going to break out. It's already over with. Anyways, so what was the we were talking about nerdy. So a few things here on value. Nerdy is in the general downtrend. So I'm probably waiting for a little bit more consolidation. They were trying to consolidate here, and you can see it broke right through the 50. So the 50 is not holding any weight right now. So there's no support even at the 50 level just yet. I would say we're at the bottom of this cycle right here. It's going to need a big day here essentially for this to pop. So even though you said Nerdy, the CEO bought, let's just pull him up real quick. So he bought 89 cents and then at $1. He bought 9 million and then another 2 million, which was a pretty big expansion of his ownership. He also bought in 6. So he's been buying only, okay, he's been buying a long time, but he's been doing most of his buying since, was that June? So one thing I would say value, he's been buying since June. Now, is that actually what he's buying at? He's definitely trying to make a point here with this purchase. So I see this. This is on 8/16 at 89 cents. He's trying to make some kind of... he's trying to set a floor for the stock because the stock was collapsing so bad. So number one, I'd want to dig more in it and see why is he so desperate to make this look better than it is. How much cash is this burning? So fundamentally, it's still got a lot of work to do. Is the big issue here. So yeah, for me, it's not a buy yet. It's something to watch. Now you've watched the 10-day did cross back over the 20, and then but now it's actually about to break back down through it. So since there was really no bullish move, even this day, this was the only day, but it's already after MACD's kind of pushed through. Like on these days where you see it and it's already pulled up, like it's taken this long just to get back to the 10-day moving average. Like there should be more volume in here because it doesn't even get like over, or it doesn't get positive on the MACD only until this day here. And I guess if you had bought on this day, like if this was the day to you that you thought it was looking like it was going to breaking out, this to me would be more the day would be interesting to me is on this here. This would be the chance where I'm like, okay, let's see if it can do something. Now, if this day had been, you know, if it had opened somewhere around here and popped up or even gapped up in the morning, something along those lines, that would be like my signal. Okay, this is definitely a buy. Now, since it started up here at this $1.13, that means, okay, it's up in the morning, so it probably would have been interesting in the morning, and I would have watched it for that first, 5, 10, 15 minutes, seeing what it done, and then you start to watch it pull down. It never recovers for the rest of the day. That would have been like, nope, it's not happening for me. And then I would have probably just kept kind of watching. These days are all weak. These days are weak. Now you're getting MACD kind of fluctuating, and it's not really popping out. This day, once again, it started off low, and it did end up, or started up high, but it did once again end down low. It was above the previous day's stock price, but still not a positive day, not like a day it's going to break out. And then once again, just collapses again. So this one to me, this one green candle here is technically a bullish signal, but we're also kind of on this downtrend for MACD. And like you'll see it too, like it can get down here and then pop back up. So I guess you could argue to keep an eye on it, but I don't see much here yet. This would be a tough one to call. And this is another thing I've come to realize too, is like I said, if I look at this and this is a tough one to call for me, like it's going to go on the back burner, and I'll probably just kind of keep an eye in like my brain and say like, hey, Nerdy was one that was interesting, but like the chart didn't show anything yet. And then in the morning, like let's say I'm looking at the morning and I'm kind of seeing what's moving, and I see maybe Nerdy's up like, I don't know, 5% or something like that in the morning. Then that day, that's the day I'm going to dig in real quick and try and catch it. And it could jump right to the top of the list. So this is one down here where it doesn't look great just yet, but definitely, I mean, if you're keeping it, just keep it on your watch list. And if you see it start to, if it looks like it's going to have a good breakout day, see what it does that morning or that next day. You don't even have to buy it on that day, but if it ends up and it's a decent day for it, now it becomes very interesting very quickly, because it's going to start to turn some of the stuff around. And sometimes too, like I said, these are tough ones because they're in the downtrend. So the story has to be a turnaround story. There is the insider buy. So value, that's where this one becomes interesting just on that insider buy, because the chart for this one doesn't really show much to me, but there is a story here, and it's the CEOs trying to make a statement by buying a ridiculous amount of shares. I mean, the guys spent, what was it? What was this ridiculous purchase? Nerdy's not even in here. It must be just a few days old, but whatever. His actual value, just $10 million in a day. Now, I don't know how much Charles Kahn has. He must be a ridiculous amount. But the man's been buying Nerdy for a long time. And by far his biggest purchases. I mean, he's throwing everything he's got at this thing. What was the volume? And we haven't had any decent volume since, besides the big sell-off, which was that earnings, August 9th. Which they did beat on earnings, but it wasn't like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, no one cares. The revenues are increasing. That's the one thing this company has going. So 92 cents is where it ended, and like, oh yeah, we're right at 92 cents. Okay. So I kind of want to get some popcorn and go watch that debate. I'm sure that is quite hysterical to watch after the last debate we got. It's probably pretty funny stuff on there. Yeah, so I know Johnny had said that the what do you call it? That the Discord is up and running. So I didn't get a chance to really post anything today. I'm actually just pulling it up because I really didn't get a chance to look at it much. I got to get more in the hands of getting used to doing it. But either way, yeah, we're pretty excited. And actually, let me see. Is anybody posting anything in terms of... I'm just like looking through because there's so many little things that Johnny's put in here. Ticker suggestions. That's cool. Value, I actually saw that you've been posted in here. AVTE is the ticker. Wow, so this one has consolidated on the 50. So this is one that's probably, if it does break out, will probably be explosive. I want to zoom in on this, but there's got to be more of a story here, because this is to explore strategic alternatives. I don't know. So like this is the one that it's going to be tough, because with strategic alternatives, you could take a position in this essentially. This would be one that if you're going to do. It also have more equity than market cap right now. Yeah, so obviously they're trying to find someone to buy them or whatever they're going to do. So for instance, this would be one that like you're not going to be able to find much on the chart. Sure, if this chart starts to like build up or something, the reason it's building up is because people are starting to buy, which means there's probably something going on underneath the hood. So those are definitely interesting times. Almost every stock I look at when I go back and I look at the chart, and they're in, like, let's say it's getting bought out or something like that, you can just start to see that little uptrend before it happens. Like, so some people know. Some people are obviously buying. Like, I know that never happens against the law, but someone knows. Someone's buying that stock. It's also not out of nowhere. It'll look like this, where this chart's just flat for forever, and then you'll watch it slowly start to creep up. I mean, this one's interesting because no one knows what to do with this one. No one knows where to price this thing. It's not doing anything right now. They're just looking to wait for news. If I was going to play this one, now, knowing everything I know, like I said, this would be like a 1% position thing, something like that. I would just hold. I probably wouldn't even touch it. Just hold it in there. Set some kind of stop loss for it, just because you don't need to just throw money away. But it's tough to say how long this could take, and if it doesn't work out, if they don't seem to buy or get anybody, I guarantee you the fundamentals break down, they run out of money, and the thing goes bankrupt. So they also have to have a reason to be bought. So I don't know what their previous if this trial failed, I would think value that this one's, I don't think this is worth the risk. I think there's so many other options out there. This isn't one I would do. But just something to know. Like, for instance, now I've heard AVTE. I'll keep that in my mind somewhere, and I'll be thinking like, hey, if you ever see that ticker, especially if you see any kind of volume or something on it, like check that immediately. That's a good one that like if some kind of thing, like someone either comes to buy them or they introduce like a new drug that they're working on, stupid news like that, could have a huge benefit for the stock. Otherwise, it's going to just slowly trickle down as they run out of money. Yeah, value, and I know that's out there, but do I want to essentially buy a company? Like I said, with all the different swing trades that are going on, do I want to buy something like this and hold it in the hopes that they're going to offer a special dividend? Maybe they do, and maybe it's a great amount, but at the same time, I don't know. What's the insidership for this? Raw Capital Management, who owns quite the mix of things. And see, even Raw Capital, like, yeah, I'm happy that they bought, but they also, it looks like their cost basis was got to be somewhere in like the $20. So for them to buy down here, like, it's just kind of like trying to, not put salt on the wound. – either way, you're right. I mean, maybe they paid out. That could be the story. They paid out to in either one, whether it's a special dividend payout or it's some kind of news that they're being bought. Those are the two things I'd probably see as a catalyst. Because probably them paying out that cash as a special dividend is much more likely than, you know, them coming up with a new drug, especially if they just laid a bunch of people off. Like, they're not gonna have the people to do anything really. So that's what I would think about that one right now. And that's kind of what this chart says to me, is that no one really knows. No one really knows what to do here. There's you know, a couple people just kind of probably buying and selling, probably doing the same thing that I'm talking about. You know, someone buys in here and they wait and they're like, nah, it's not doing anything, sells off a little bit, and then some, you know, a couple more people are like, we'll give it a shot. I'm sure most of it's just noise. It's probably computers just trading slowly with each other. One computer trading to another. What's PBI doing? Yeah, still looks at kind of at the bottom of a trend. Looks like it's just starting to maybe turn. It's pulling away from the Bollinger line there. This one's slowly becoming interesting. All right, what else is going on here? Anything? Kind of went over insiders. We'll just go by the daily mover charts. So we'll go through some of these. So this is, like I said, this is one of the ones that was below $1. Not really looking at that. Don't get me wrong. Doesn't mean it can't do anything. This it's just touching the 10-day moving average. So it kind of worries me that it's a bit of an early move. But who knows? This is another one that, for instance, if it's up crazy tomorrow and open, and it continues to rock its way upwards, could be interesting. Still up 7% in the after hours. So, and really great volume. You know, everything looks like it's turning around essentially on all these different measurements for that one. I would argue ALTO looks interesting here. Still working its way up, and actually it was kind of a late day. What happened here? Well, just one day, just slowly pushing up. So good breakout day. Broke through 50, 100-day moving average. It's up on RSI, on MACD. Like I said, if tomorrow this gaps up or anything like that, definitely watch ALTO. And my goal is to start making some of these calls. The only thing I don't see here is some like standout volume, but tomorrow could be a standout volume day. So that's another thing too. Especially, that's another thing too. If you're looking in the morning, and let's say you have like 3 or 4 stocks that you're looking at, and you're trying to figure out like real quick in that first 5 minutes which one that you think you're interested in, and maybe take the trade on. Whatever one is just pumping on volume, always a good choice. Always a good choice, and that also gives it some long room to run. You know, that could be a multi-day run. Like, let's say volume is normally like 1 million and it's already at like 10 million and it's like 20 minutes into the day. You could probably buy at the end of the day there at the very top, and it's still going to keep running. American Superconductor. So another one looks pretty good. Pretty good on the breakout. Would have been a great buy today. Yesterday actually would have signaled the first buy. So this is one that worked out pretty perfect today. And you can see in the past on this chart here too, when it first breaks out on here, it's breaking out on everything. It's starting to ride that Bollinger Band. And this would be one of those long-term hold ones that if you held on this got in somewhere around, you know, like 12 something, and you would have finally got out around 20. And yeah, it's a 2-month hold, but it's for like probably like, you know, if like you had sold throughout some of this, remember, like a 50% gain in 2 months, so 25%, which is the 5%, or give or take a week. See this Aurora Innovation one. This is one that like it did break up, but it kind of looks like it's in a downtrend here to me. Now this is a disruptor to that. So if this ends up making a decent move tomorrow, this could become more interesting. But it's like kind of teetering. Like this 13% move kind of saved it. Which, to be honest, a 13% move is pretty strong. I just wonder, like, does it have much legs? Because it's like this one did build up, but this one, it didn't have too much strength to it. And once again, not much volume or anything like that. This one's still kind of weak on volume. So it did slowly trend upwards, but not as clear cut as like these signals are in here. This is another one that kind of like, you know, this is where like your stop loss would have gotten you just a little bit of a gain, maybe pretty much break even. So this is, like I said, this one's your wash week. Then you watch it again, and then somewhere on one of these 2 days is where you get your buy-in. You know, and as you ride this up, this one follows it perfectly. This is one that's like around like let's say you got in at like 250, and then, you know, you're selling some of it at almost $5. You know, I would hope you're selling some of it at $5, you know, in the course of like 2 weeks. See this AVO one? This is one to me that like, it doesn't really mean much. This giant jump up here, it's like, it's almost too much. Like in one day, like I don't know. Maybe these are good ones to watch as just kind of a trend study to see what's happening with them. It's technically still up a little bit. Oh, you know what? Is it gonna get bought? Oh, it was just earnings. Okay. If it's earnings, that makes it a little more interesting. It might take a little bit and have to pull back. But actually, if that's on an earnings move, this would be another one that too, if it continues to go up, it would be interesting. That's a huge move on just earnings. And there's a lot of times you see this this kind of massive gap up. If it's for a reason, it usually has some sustain to it. Be honest, I'm seeing a lot of these names that look pretty good. You could probably swing trade quite a few of these names. This one here, and like I said, it's all in context. Like tomorrow, you're gonna look and see which one of these are kind of up in the mornings and whatnot like that. And if they aren't, then you just kind of move on. And there'll be a few that will break out and that follow the pattern perfectly. And those are, like I said, if you can capture some of those, you know, quick things to check is what are the quick negatives of it? You know, how's the business look? Like, where are they in the cycle? Are they brand new business? You know, do they have earnings and everything like that? Are they is it more of a deep value type stock where you need kind of the story too? But I do like screening by these charts. It really gives me an idea of which few to focus on. This one looks like it might be breaking out COMM for its next big move. This one went from $1 to around $2. The first, but like I said, this is one that and it's tough. It's easier to say after looking at the chart. You know what? Actually, on this day, I probably would have sold. So on that day, I sold, and then you know, if I was keeping an eye on it, maybe on one of these days, get back in. Because once again, it looks like the move just recovers, and once again, you could have gotten from like 275 somewhere around this 4 mark, and once again it kind of looks like it's breaking out again. So what's COMM? That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of decent looking stocks in here, and this is why the momentum ones are great to follow. Up at 1%, which doesn't sound like much, but I guarantee you this is going to continue. This move will push up. This MACD tomorrow is going to be positive for the first time. RSI is already positive. Now, the only thing I'll say is if this is after hours, but I guarantee you if this holds up and this continues to jump, if it jumps a little bit in the morning and in the start of the morning, if this one continues to ride, COMM will keep going up. This one not yet. See what it does tomorrow. This one looks like it's kind of breaking down. But either way, you guys get the idea. I mean, I hope if you're able to follow what I'm saying that it makes somewhat decent sense. And I just wanted to go over this a little bit because it is going to be kind of integral in terms of my timing of things. So I kind of wanted to have a stream here where I've kind of explaining to people what my method will be, or strategy to the method or something like that. And then probably going back, it'll probably be more traditional streams. I'll probably screen more by the charts than just using the dashboard, because sometimes, like I said, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like to see the metrics and stuff, but a lot of times the problem with the metrics is like they're good and like they'll give me the idea of things, but like I've looked through so many of these stocks on the metrics and like that they're cheap and you're just kind of waiting for that next move, and the charts can kind of better guide you towards the ones that are coming up as the next move. So the goal will be to use the charts to kind of screen, and then I'll pull these names into the fundamental database, and then we'll go through and see if there's anything else that we can see there, just to kind of help with your margin of safety. I think it's important to always keep that consideration in mind. One thing I'll say is, I agree with the traders. I will say, in terms of your stop losses, that if you're strict with your stop loss, that's your margin of safety essentially. Like, if you set your stop loss to lose at most 1% on your position, that's all you can lose. I mean, maybe if it gaps down a little bit right then, you kind of get unlucky. But it's rare. And I'm hoping that if you've been seeing what I'm showing you, especially on a lot of these momentum type stocks, which once again, this one's in a general downtrend, it's a little tougher to do. These are tougher moves to call. Where these ones that have broken through the 200, these are easier uptrends to see. This is EOS. EOS got all the way down to 70 cents. This is a battery company that I got in a few years back. And but this is another one that follows kind of what I've been saying almost perfectly. You can see the breakout on these days here. And now it does come back down. It holds above the 20. So when I see the 10 ramping up in the 20s there, and I see it bounce off the 20, I might not have sold on this day. Might have decided to just hold, because that is one exception kind of to the rule. Kind of helps you to continue to follow it. But I don't know, maybe sell, like let's say you had bought in on one of these days and you sold 30% there. Maybe sell another like 30 in here just in case, and then if it continues to break out, great, you caught it. If not, let's say it went down again, you don't get hit as hard on that. And sometimes like it's just not going to work out. This is a great example of this starting to break out. So it breaks above the 10-day moving average. MACD slowly becomes positive. Takes a few days. And like I said, this is a tough spot because this is so pulled apart. It should let you know that like this really needs to continue to consolidate, which it does. And then as it breaks out from there, this would probably be the easier call to make is right here as it crisscrosses and continues to break upwards. But once again, this is a 1 day, or this is a 1 week breakout where even if you get down at the $2, we're literally at $4 today, it would have been a 100% gain in 2 days. In a stock that literally followed almost every one of the rules. It's very easy. MACD's positive, volume starts to increase on these days. This consolidates. The only thing that's negative is it's kind of in a general downtrend, but it's still a new company. It doesn't even have a 200-day moving average yet. IHRT, did IHRT have earnings? Oh, they made a strategic partnership. Okay. Either way, market took that as bullish news. And this is another one too. We're approaching a 200-day moving average. If it can break above that and hold, it would signal a pretty bullish uptrend. So tomorrow, this would be one I'd probably wait or be watching it to break that 190 mark. It's at 185. We'll see what it does in the morning, but be astounded if it can push right through that. Now you'll see that is a path of resistance. Look how perfectly the today's high got it. Today's high touched it and came right back down. So it's gonna take more volume to push through that. But I don't know. This is a pretty decent reversal here already, so it might have the momentum now to do it. This is a tough one. Kugi had this perfect sideways trend, and this one broke out. Same thing. Got to the 200 and bounced right off of it. But really big volume here. And but this is a good example. This one's down 9% in after hours. Now, don't get me wrong, you got to check it in the morning because the post and the pre-market don't really mean all that much. It could be on really low volume that it's down 9%. I was actually looking at some of the post and pre-market, and sometimes something will trade like 100 shares, and it's down like 6% because some idiot did a market share. Either that, or I think it's like Wall Street trying to like scare people, see if they can get anyone to bite. But Lays, this is another good one. Shows it almost perfectly. Once again, breaks out again. It does tap here, but doesn't break through, and then takes the rise up again. This is another one you would have got in at about $2, and between August and September now, it's more than a double. It's almost a triple now. And like I said, you're not going to capture all that move, but there is some pretty clear breakouts here, in my opinion, that should signal these are good buys. And even if you bought on this one, sold out on one of these today, even if you sold on this day and then sold the rest on this day because it was so close to that 10-day moving average and scared you, this one breaks out above, and then on this day you get back in at 450. It's still a double. And once again, it's above that 200-day moving average. It has everything consolidating on this one, and it breaks out from there. And now you're just riding the 20-day. It touches that 20-day moving average and constantly breaks out. Once again, that's a signal I said to actually kind of hold. And it's not always perfect, but you get the idea. Like these are like set rules that like if you stick to these rules, it will be profitable. Matrix I don't like because it started high and it ended the day a decent amount lower. So, meh. Or do I have that candle? No, yeah, because it's a solid candle. Sorry, I'm like losing it. I gotta stop looking at these damn charts. Oracle is another one. I mean, this was an earnings beat, but kind of leading up to it, just following that Bollinger Band. I guess you could argue there's a small breakout here, and it held up. Even on this day, it held up, and then today would have been your catch on it. That's a pretty big company. Oracle is not. What's Oracle's market cap? Yeah, $429 billion. So, and like I said, this is another one that you would have gotten actually kind of lucky if you had gotten in. This isn't one you're going to capture in the morning. You buy on this one, even if you got in there, you're still not. But this one also, I'm not super as bullish as I'd like to be, just because it's already had a pretty big gain within the last few months. Not to say that doesn't mean it can't keep going higher, but it's tough. We'll see if this one gets a lot of volume again and really jumps again tomorrow. I would say that's interesting. QH just went nuts today. This stock is ridiculous. This one's like a random Chinese one. Really tough to call this one. If anything, this would be one of the ones that I just said, crazy volume in one day, take a small position, 1%, and ride that baby. I don't think there's like an intelligent way to ride that play. Like, who knows? And like I said too, it's up today. So I guess you could argue now, since it held up on all this volume, that this could be a big play for a few days, but it could go down just as quick. So this is, like I said, this is one I'm not betting the farm on, but it's already up to $3. We'll see what it does in the morning. But I mean, Huge play. This is a NASCAR play. NASCAR loves these ones. And I think that's what NASCAR said. I think he said he takes those really small positions on these. All right, I mean, I could go through these, you know, one by one and show you the same thing I've just shown you like 10 times. But I hope that's my point to impress upon you as I'm looking through these, especially in some of the momentum stocks. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, these ones in these general downtrends, they're tough to call. They're really tough. Even some of these upper moves here, they're just not big. By the time this MACD becomes really positive, where is that? Somewhere right here. But yeah, it does break above the 10. So this one, actually, you do okay on that one. It's not a terrible one, but they're just tougher. And who knows? You know, maybe this is that first signal of, hey, things are starting to turn around. You're starting to see that break through the 50-day moving average. Now, it did break back below, but just see that it's kind of breaking back up. Summit, I already went over Summit today. This is, like I said, one of the ones I bought. And decided just to get out of, because I took a little bit larger of a position I probably should have, but it worked out. So TERN is another one. It's almost the exact same story, to be honest. All right, well, we're almost at 9:50 here. I'm probably going to call this one, guys. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Value, thank you as always, man. It's always good talking with you. Hope everything's well out there. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't think, really, like I said, I don't think the debate's going to have much effect on the stocks, but this August CPI will. So, like I said, one of the very few times I'm actually going to pay attention to macro is if that comes out and like all these are getting just murdered one day, like let's say we're down like 2% or something like that. I'm probably going to be hesitant to take big positions on that day. Just kind of let things smooth out that day. Just kind of keep my eyes open. See if anything gets handed to me. And if not, not a big deal. But like I said, once again, I do apologize because I know some of you guys are probably in here for more of the fundamental side of things, and I will get to all that. And actually, I think after going through the charts, like just after seeing what matters to some people, I almost want to put more emphasis on certain things, which it kind of helps because like the idea is like I want to price it where the market prices it, not just where the fundamentals price it. Because if it's priced up above and the market's going to pay it, then to me, like that's how you should be looking at it. And you know, so like I said, if the market's willing to pay it, if there's like some kind of huge drop off, like as long as you're hedged across a couple positions, it's fine. You won't get murdered on one thing. But so maybe I'll adjust these again. But we'll see. I'm not quite sure yet. But I'm out of beer. I've been out of beer. I like pounded that last beer. Johnny should be on his normal Thursday. I should be on my or we should be on our normal time, I think Saturday, but we'll update everybody on X or on the Discord too. So once again, thanks for everyone for joining. Value, have a good night, man. And to everybody else, have a good rest of your week.